as far as Bethesda goes, so we know that Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6 are both being built using their in-house engine. The same, in quotes, engine used all the way back to Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Skyrim. So their engine that they use to build these big open worlds with, where you can, stack cheese wheels to the heavens. Now, same engine, again, has some qualifiers. We know that they are working on this engine. We know they've been working on it very intensely, adding to what it can do. Does this mean that Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6 will be technical marvels and that Bethesda will lose their reputation as releasing the buggiest games in the universe? No, it does not mean that at all. These games could still be buggy as hell and, work as well as a wheelbarrow with a flat tire or something. But we know they're putting a lot of work into it. We also know that Bethesda is now owned by Microsoft, and it's sounding like, from some digging that Sybe's been doing, Microsoft may have been involved in the whole process a lot earlier than we knew. Now, when we covered the Microsoft Bethesda sort of announcement event, like the day that everything became official, and you had the Xbox people and the Bethesda people all in one room, and that was that day that Todd Howard said, there's nothing we didn't screw up in Fallout 76. That day, that event, they made it sound like that was day one of them working together.
For legal reasons, they have to say that.
Mm-hmm.
For deeper reasons, there is more going on here than what we see on the surface, and there's always more going on at these big places. So yes, basically they shipped 76 in November 2018, and by early 2019 they realized that they were in a gigantic pile of shizno. And they were having some massive hurdles to overcome. Now, that's when they reached out, apparently. They reached out even a little bit before that to Microsoft. Microsoft started working with them a lot closer. This is also when Microsoft was starting to eye, them, as a potential buyout. So the theory runs that about this time you could say, hey, we are having some issues. We're upgrading our engine. We have a lot of things going on for the Starfield release. They're like, wow, that's very interesting. We'd sure love to get that Starfield released over here. And the response to that probably was, well, we couldn't really do that. I mean, we'd be losing a lot of money on those PlayStation sales. And somebody goes, well, what if we were just, under one family and money wasn't part of that equation? And then the reaction from there probably, started to pick up. So that's kind of, again, and that's how
the romance started.
Well, I mean, the romance has been going a lot. I mean, again, they partnered very close to them on the original Xbox release. They did a lot of work with them throughout the Oblivion time. Again, they were very, very close with the production of Fallout 3. They have been tight buddies for a very long time, and for a very long time, Microsoft, head execs have been very close to executives over at Bethesda at several of their different studios. So it's, again, this isn't something that's new. This isn't something that started at the sale point. This is something that has been going on for a while now. I think there was probably some tech involved in this. I am certain of this now. This is kind of where I'm getting some information from. So basically what I think happened is that in very early 2019, even possibly late term 2018, they were like, hey, we need a hand, and do you have any tech that can help assist us? And basically, I think one of their support teams basically came in and assisted with this massive upgrade. Because the creation engine has been completely, as far as what we're seeing more and more is that the creation engine that's going to be launching with this, with Starfield, is going to be nothing like the creation engine that you've seen as far as like the visual, like the outcome, right?
Okay.
But what we know from the creation engine is that it was very easy to work with as far as like modding stuff in and building stuff and building assets and working with things. I mean, even looking at Fallout 4, the ability to create, I mean, 76 too, it's the same thing, right? With the settlements, you have an enormous amount of freedom for what the game, quote unquote, air quotes, is. For what the game is and the patchiness of the creation engine and how it's how old it was and what it was doing and all that kind of stuff. There's so much of it that just wasn't and isn't still to this day isn't top quality. There's so many issues with it. There's so many problems with the animation engine. It's garbage. But all that aside, you can run amazing stuff in that engine. You can take that engine, you can import 4K, 12K, 20K. There was somebody who uploaded a 20K armor set to Nexus Mod Manager. There's people that run these 4K graphical updates to Skyrim.
We have somebody on our Discord server who mods Skyrim and takes these amazing screenshots and posts these characters, and it's like, no way that's from Skyrim. Like, no way. And it is because at its core, the creation engine is one of the easiest and best things to work with. It requires very little advanced knowledge. It aside from having a lot of issues with being fairly buggy, it doesn't have the hair-pulling, strenuous, screaming, head smashing into wall-inducing, vomit-inducing garbage UI that is that sorry state of an engine that EA made, and that they insisted that these studios use, and because it was their proprietary technology, man, it ruined Mass Effect. It ruined basically everything it's ever touched. It's absolute trash, and it's even more absolute trash when you compare it to Bethesda's engine. Now, again, Bethesda's engine, it hobbles along and it doesn't look great when it's default stuff, and it hasn't been smoothed out. But again, you look at like these masterpiece like mod packs that you can install for Fallout and for Skyrim. You can go to these you can go to this website where they basically they've preemptively combined hundreds and hundreds of mods, and they've organized it and flexed it in and morphed it in so that the system just updates over the course of a day, because it takes forever to do it. But it's this beautiful thing, and when you're finally done, the game works great. Or you can do that by yourself if you're a master mod manager. You can make the game look absolutely gorgeous. Now, the animations still have a lot of problems. There's some fixes out for that. But again, there's a lot of problems. But you can also make a lot of content in that game very quickly. It's easy to create systems. It's easy to create quests. It's easy to create unique dungeon encounters. Have you seen some of the mods people have made for Fallout and Skyrim? Some of the modded content. Is groundbreaking. Some of the missions, the quests, the dungeons. What was it, the Dungeon of Time or something like that somebody made for Skyrim? You had this. It was a giant puzzle jumping jumper. And again, these are projects made by one or two people over the course of 3 or 4 years, and they can make these amazingly deep things. There was one Endril, I think it was Endril. I'm pronouncing it wrong.
But there was this dude who made this thing, and he got a job at Bungie based off of how he, by himself, created what was essentially an expansion worth of story content, cool effects, visual things that he was able to do with the engine. Again, this engine, I cannot overstate this. Whilst looking crappy and old when you're playing Fallout and Skyrim now, the engine is actually amazing. And this has been my frustration with people talking about, oh, they hate the engine. It's like, no, you don't understand. The engine is one of the best things there. It allows them to do the thing. If they moved over to Unreal, they couldn't do half the stuff that they do in that game. And that we're talking about Unreal. Like, geez. Like,
so why do we have these issues with, like?
Well, just because, again, they haven't spent the time to actually appropriately upgrade certain aspects of the engine. And they haven't gone around to improving the scripting language and the stuff and shortening things up. There's a lot of things that they haven't done just because they didn't have the time or they didn't think it was important. But now, after the feedback of Fallout 4 and 76, I think they got the message loud and clear.
Well, and you've been saying for a couple of years now, I'm sure you've been saying for a couple of years that they have one of the things they've specifically worked on is the animation system. So what else can we expect? So looking to the future now, looking to Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, what can we expect?
So looking back at 76, Fallout 4, Skyrim, the world is pretty small. Like logistically speaking, it's a small world. I mean, you can,
after all,
if you have a flying mod, you can fly from one end of the map to the other end of the map in like 5 minutes, right? Like these are small maps. You couldn't do a No Man's Sky where you have entire planets, that are absolutely massive, and that you're able to build, spaceships and starports and then fly to different planets. You couldn't do that in the older iteration of this engine. We might be looking at the ability to do that now. And if that's the case, then this engine going forward is probably going to become groundbreakingly amazing. Because if they've figured out a way to create entire worlds or entire the ability to travel, essentially get in a starfighter and move from point A to point B, which is what a lot of these signs are pointing at. Again, don't quote me on this because I haven't seen the gameplay of Starfield. I don't know if these ships that we're seeing, are they just a transportation system to go from one planet to another, or from one starport to another? Like, are there even planets? Like, we there's a lot of questions that we don't know right now. Is the reason that we're in space because there's still a limitation to the engine, and that basically we're just taking a cell to build basically the map ourselves, and then have the map be populated with stuff after we've been, built it and created it? Is that what's going on? Or is there actual different systems that we can go to? We can hop in a ship, literally get in a dogfight, and then go land. We don't know those questions right now. We don't have the answers to those. I have my suspicions, but again, it's like we're all going to find that out at about the same time, and it's going to be great. But as far as the question of like, how much have they upgraded everything on it? I think the answer to that is we are going to be seeing way more than we are used to seeing. And we're going to be able to see content and stuff that is probably going to blow our minds, honestly. Again, I don't encourage anybody to run out and pre-order Starfield. I think that would be a terrible, terrible mistake. But I believe that what we're seeing and what we're starting to hear indicates that we're going to see some pretty amazing stuff. And with Starfield, that's going to be big. With Elder Scrolls 6, it's going to be absolutely massive. I mean, Starfield, they've been brought in to Microsoft during the progression of this thing. How much they've had a hand in helping them, whether they started at the beginning of 2019 or earlier, we don't know yet. We don't know for 100% fact. I'm really getting a lot of good information here, but that seems to indicate that Microsoft started helping them out a lot sooner because they were desperate for this title. They were desperate for this deal, and they wanted to make it work no matter what. That included voluntarily giving them a bunch of oh my goodness.
Proprietary? Is that what you're trying to say?
Proprietary technology. Technology that was a game changer. I've been talking about this for a long time. And again, we talked about how stupid Microsoft was to not showcase this when they were talking about the new Fallout game or
Halo
game. New Halo game. Their Halo game, they focused on the graphics for some reason when the graphics clearly weren't finished yet, instead of showcasing the depth of the world and the butterfly type system that they had in the world. The butterfly type system, for anybody who doesn't know, is where you go in, you shoot a butterfly, and 20 minutes later you're playing a completely different experience than the other person who didn't shoot the butterfly because of the small micro changes that happen in that.
That poor butterfly.
That poor butterfly, right? So, I mean, really it stems from the whole, you travel back in time, you accidentally step on a butterfly, you come back to the future, and there's not humans, there's, anthropomorphic cats or lizard people running around, that because you changed something in the past that caused a domino effect for millions of years into the future.
Because there totally aren't lizard people at all.
Of course there's not lizard people.
Nope.
So
no lizard.
That's basically the thing. And again, they some of the stuff we've been hearing is that they have increased their ability to do DirectX, which means that we're going to be seeing some really amazing graphical stuff. Their AI system, I know that they were flirting with a couple of new algorithmic AIs when it came to procedural quest generation. Like that's the quest generation that's generated for you on the fly. And that I remember that Todd Howard was talking about it. I can't remember if this was public or not, but he was talking about how if you were to compare, again, Todd Howard tends to exaggerate stuff, so let's not take his word on this. But I remember him talking about it, how if you compared the original AI that they were using for quests in Skyrim to what they were working on now, that it was like it's like the difference between a fourth grade person and somebody in like advanced college, an advanced college course.
Yeah, that's one thing that definitely needs work. If you're talking about my wish list for upcoming Bethesda games, definitely an improvement. The Radiant quests were just like meh. Definitely need a better AI. Also, if they can do away with the whole loading screens before in between areas, like when you're going into and out of buildings, that almost seems like a staple now.
It's been a huge problem for a very long time, and they had a problem with it. Cyberpunk still had a problem with it, because they did that. They had a lot of issues with that. There was so much trying to load in that and we kind of we were worried about that issue, right? Well, how are you guys going to be handling loading in a office tower building where it's 40 feet in the other direction is a different building, right?
Well, it's probably based on player position. Like once you enter the building or are getting close to the entrance, it probably starts loading in what's in the building. Like there are shortcuts you can take.
Yeah, but that doesn't always work because, if you can walk outside of any of the buildings, which you should be able to, and jump over to the next building, then again, crossing two buildings and jumping from one open window to the next open window should be possible in the worlds that they're creating, and will certainly be possible, or should certainly be possible in Elder Scrolls 6.
You should be able to also look, even if you look out one window, you look into the building across the way, and you see stuff sitting on the table in that building. That's a big technical challenge.
Yeah. So, and they've been wanting to do this. So if you look at 76 and the way that they were designing cities and designing the experience of the little metro city that they had there, they clearly want to do this stuff, but they're clearly limited by the technology. But if they have basically this, if they have some of this new tech that has been rumored, Microsoft has been rumored to be working with, if they got a bunch of that stuff upgraded into their system, we're looking at a complete game changer when it comes to the experience of an open world. And perhaps, Fallout, or I keep saying Fallout, perhaps Halo is kind of broken right now. Maybe what they're going to end up going with is Starfield, and maybe they even knew that 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's been a lot more people working on this thing than we know. There's a lot of maybes, and there's a lot of stuff going on here, but it's clear that there's a lot of stuff that is currently moving here. And again, don't pre-order this, but stuff's going on. And I don't think that Todd Howard is an idiot. I think that, like some of the other great gaming lead or, studio directors that we've had in the past overpromise stuff. I mean, there was a whole mess with Fable. There was, Randy. Oh God, Randy. There's obviously an issue with a lot of people that just has so many issues to it in the past. And Todd Howard has found his way in there. But he's also not an idiot. He's not Randy, he's not Peter. He's not these people that have just promised the moon and then delivered a piece of pie, right? Like, he's not them. He's not the guy behind, half the dozen of these other things that have crashed and burned. But it's just there is something there. And I promise you this, you're going to be surprised by Starfield and the next Elder Scrolls. Again, you may not be interested in Starfield because you might not dig the aesthetic, the story, or the setting. But the next Elder Scrolls is, in my humble opinion, is going to make Skyrim look like a box of Lego.